I think that's what really attracted me to STEM. Right, there is a definite right answer, but here, there could be multiple right answers. There could be multiple ways to get to a solution, and it's on you to kind of figure out what is more practical, what can save resources, what can save time, energy, what can, you know, how do you make a decision right with a limited set of information.
Welcome to the Unknown Options, the place where we explore the unknown options, the number one source for career apprehension and accessibility. My name is Will, and today I'm with my good friend of mine, OD. OD, it's great to have you here. Give us a rundown on who you are and what you do.
Pleasure to be on the show, man. Pleasure. Name is Oderah. I am currently a process engineer working in the pharmaceutical industry. In a nutshell, I work in the tech transfer space, and if you don't know what a tech transfer is, it's essentially a process where you onboard new technologies or the technical know-how to get a process done. And I'm primarily in the vaccine manufacturing space, so with respect to my job, I'm in the business of receiving the information, taking the information from what is called a sending site, and as a receiving site, I take all the critical information, technical details, parameters, and make sure that the equipment we have, the facility we have, the materials we use are all conducive to making sure that the process we put in place at our receiving site enables us to make a robust, reliable, and quality supply of vaccines.
Love it. Okay. Your journey is important, so you want to highlight the good, the bad, and ugly of all your journey. You kind of already explained what a process engineer does. So, how did you get started?
Yep, certainly. I've been with my company 3 years now, and I think what really I wanted to tell the story backwards, but I think starting from once I graduated college is more appropriate. So I graduated high school from a high school in Durham, small historically black high school, and I went to UNC Charlotte. Went to college really not knowing anything about college other than it wasn't in my hometown. And that was just all I really needed, right? I knew a couple of people there, and I just said, "Boom, let's go." But I was fortunate enough to spend 2 years there, really see what it meant to be minority at a predominantly white institute. Met some great people there. That's where I met you, Will.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna strike this from the record, but it was the Will with the locks. So back when we were young,
No,
we were going.
that's the
We were,
history.
yeah, history for sure. Right? We grown men now, like not
So,
as a reflection of your character, but that's where I met Will. We just having fun with it, really, while still learning the collegiate material. But at a point after my sophomore year, I realized I wasn't really getting what I needed academically, and then there were just lots of tensions and really events and circumstances that made me question if this was the place for me or if I needed to change the scenery. And that led me to transferring to an HBCU, historically black college slash university. Um, Once I did that, I took my career to UNC North Carolina Central University (NCCU) here in my hometown of Durham. So um, that's when things really started kicking gear. Right, I think I had the intellect, academic prowess, right, to succeed at Charlotte, but the focus wasn't there. And then the connections and networking opportunity was really hard to come by. But at Central, there was a heavy emphasis on exposure to industries, exposure to internships. I got my first internship in combination with my ability to keep my grades high. I was able to do internships during the school year at labs, gain employment through that. I was able to intern 2 summers at UNC Chapel Hill doing research at R1 Institute, which is, tier one essentially, or up there as far as research institutions go. And I was able to attend conferences, travel really, visit California, visit premier research companies in California, present at conferences. Um, I even got a chance to visit Stanford in exploration of that postgraduate studies, and really Central. What it did was give me fertile ground to really start fresh explore and really make meaningful connections across different industries and really explore if there were viable opportunities for me. So with that, one of these such events was at the start of my senior year. There was an event called Historically Black HBCU Day held at a company called Merck. So I had seen it in my research, heard about it, but I didn't know it was based in Durham. They had a site in Durham, and I didn't know too much about Merck as a whole. But I attended this event. It was run by the League of Employees of African Descent, which is an employee business resource group, which is essentially, if you're unfamiliar with it, resource groups, kind of coalitions, where you're able to kind of bond together over shared interests and really do that work outside of your standard work, to rather serve your community, serve the employees over those common threads that you have, right? Really recognizing those differences that make us all unique and still, bring offer valuable offerings to whatever setting we're in. So that was in 2019. I attended, and I think I, jumped feet first into that opportunity. Right. I saw the facilities, saw the people hosting it, saw some of the senior leaders speaking, got a chance to hear from them, and I made it a point of emphasis to really connect with them, ask probing questions, and I think that helped make a mark. And following from that, I made a point to connect on LinkedIn with members, send thank you notes, and I ended up finding a mentor out of it. Actually, still a mentor to this day. But I think when I was getting ready to start applying for things, right, I didn't think I knew I wasn't looking to go back to school. Right, I was ready to enter the workforce.
Yeah.
I was applying to a plethora of positions well ahead of graduation. So I think October, November, January timeframe. So before my last semester, right? And I think that's something students should, like, graduating students should always try and do, right? A semester before they're about to graduate, really begin that job hunt in earnest. But of all the jobs I applied to, the ones where I was able to really actually get connections or callbacks from were ones where I had met with somebody face to face. I think I had a stellar resume for certainly, looking across the board, but understanding that process is very, you're going up against thousands, understandably. But my point was that, right, I think networking allowed me to get those callbacks and put the face to the name on the paper and really recognize that there was something there. And really, Merck was the top offer out of that. And I think really the efforts I made from that HBCU day till that point I applied enabled me to really secure a home with Merck. So I
Nice.
think that's what that one point is what really helped me get into Merck. And again, shout out to the mentors and former alumni of Central that worked at Merck. They also had a hand in helping me prepare for the interview process, be ready to excel in that space, and result in me getting that offer.
Nice. I love it. People don't understand like the possibilities with networking. I mean, like we hear about it all through, well, not really high school, but definitely through college, and like a lot of us get started late, like you said, because like we be partying until really junior year, and it's like, yo, I didn't network at all. But then like some kids network their freshman year, their sophomore year, and they get the internships their sophomore year. Then like they're kind of set, but like you said, we some of us start a little late, but we end up in the same place. So I love it. That story is amazing. How is, or I guess, why is process engineering important, and what does it contribute to like the general public?
Yeah, I think process engineering as a whole is important because you think, in general, if you think of a manufacturing line, a filling line, any sort of assembly line, it's the process engineers who put that process together. So if you talk about automation industry, there are no Teslas, there are no Toyotas, there are none of that. The workers certainly have to be the grounds on the force on the ground to really do the work, but we're the people that are putting everything together so that way you're able to come in, simply put X part here, um, allow it to remain forever how long, crank it up to this speed, and then push that next part down to your next person down the line, and then they take over and do the same thing from there. It's essentially really the ones that put the logistics, put the flow in place, put that vision into the physical space, bring that into the physical space, and it'll not enable you to really do whatever. So I think while I'm in the pharmaceutical industry, right, this is a job that, albeit some maybe specialized training is required, it really hinders on being able to see the end in sight and really take the inputs, and make sure that whenever the inputs are added, that the final output is exactly what you want it to be. How like at a high degree, with a high degree of confidence.
Okay, I like it. Okay, you talked about your college journey. We like to go a little further back sometimes. Tell us. I know you said you were kind of undecided, like your freshman and sophomore year at UNCC, and then you went to NCCU. But what was like your thoughts in high school, like and going to college? Like, were you always looking to work into? I know we were talking before, like STEM. Like, where was your head at when you were in high school?
I did not think that far ahead. And I think for me, just being a high schooler, right, I was always smart, and that could be like, not that, easily it was a point of hubris, like point of pride for sure. And I think that's critical, like, right, fostering an environment where academics is a point of pride. But I think, just thinking I was smart enough and smart enough to breach through anything was my thought process then. Why I was going to college, I just knew it was the next step. So, fortunately, that was, night and day coming out of a place like Durham, right? For a lot of my peers at the time, the next step was just graduating high school. That was the final step, and that was it for their academic careers. There was a lot of outside circumstances that I feel like no children should go through, right? Because that just takes away from their formative development, and then in addition to forcing them to grow up fast, they're just never able to like see the big picture that can change the trajectory of their lives, right? So I didn't know, but I think what helped me was just knowing that college was like a must. I had to go to college, and once I did that, I was able to kind of figure it all along as I went, right?
Gotcha. Was that college a must? Was it kind of a must from like your parents or like your familiar, like your family, or was it kind of like you internally, like you seen people around you, like like they're gonna hit the high school graduation and not do anything? You're like, I got to do more than that, or was it kind of like your family like saying, I know my mom, my dad, they was like, you either going to the military, or you going to college, or you get kicked out, kind of. So it was
Yeah,
one of three.
yeah. I think both, right? I think definitely being of Nigerian descent, right? Educational that educational aspect is pushed so hard, right? It's almost just understood that that's the way you're gonna go. But at the same time, I also was also with like a group of also like-minded students, right, who had the same backgrounds, right? African American students. I went to a historically black high school, so you know, being black was not the differentiating factor, right? There's you were able to see the like myriad of different personalities that are shared by under that black experience. So they also had like that same upbringing where college was the next step, and I was an athlete as well, so even like consider going to that next level of college was a necessary stepping stone back when I had like brief aspirations of going to the league. But like I think those factors there, and then certainly kudos to like my mentors while I was in high school. I didn't even realize they were mentors, but I looked at them as guiding figures, right, to ensure that I knew about these kind of things. They were also pivotal in making sure that um, despite all these distractions happening here, right, the ultimate goal, can't end beyond these doors, right? You got to keep pushing forward.
I love that. I love that. Like you didn't even know they were mentors. Like a lot of people don't realize that right now. Like in really any age, like people, but I think people realize in like different seasons, like the effects that people had, or where the people were, I guess, guiding them in their life. It's definitely great to have mentors that young because a lot of people they don't have anyone. They might have one person. They ignore that one person because we stubborn and hard headed when we're like 15 to like
Yeah.
18. They know that one person, you just it's over with. But for process engineers, is college required?
Yes. To be a process engineer, you typically are required. While I was classically trained in my degrees in pharmaceutical sciences, and I have a minor in chemistry, majority of my counterparts are chemical engineers by training.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I guess education would be a barrier to entry in some aspect. Do you think process engineers they will like will there be more of them in the future, or do you think there'll be less of them in the future?
It really depends on scalability. I think if you can open more manufacturing plants, you'll always need process engineers. I
Yeah.
think it'll be, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the job index and how that trajectory for jobs is there, but I'm pretty sure it's a steady demand. I don't see it being a profession that is lost to automation or lost to artificial intelligence. I think you're always going to need someone to be able to direct that process or organize information in a way that results in capital goods.
Okay, I love it. Give us your day to day in your current position, and then the evolution of it. If I know you say you started 3 years ago, so like if maybe your workflow changed like since you first started to where you are now.
Yep, I can give you the three bands, right? So I'm currently an engineering specialist. That's mid-level engineer. I came in as an associate specialist, and the next progression as an individual contributor would be a senior specialist. So those are the three bands. I sit in the middle. When I
Nice.
came in, I started during the pandemic, and um, my first job was working on COVID-19 vaccine. So that was very lofty goals, and in that mode, it was day to day was do whatever has to be done. Like we're moving rapid fire. Um, Trump's administration had named it Operation Warp Speed, and that was aptly named, right? Day in day out, we were constantly. I think what was demanded of me was extreme flexibility, right? Wearing multiple hats, doing jobs that are outside of my job duty, taking on additional responsibilities, getting opportunities to touch my hands on different parts of the process. So I initially like right day to day would have been right working on executing protocols, doing commissioning qualification to validate the equipment we're using, writing standard operating procedures so that our technicians can use them routinely, training those same operators, really working towards those milestones, but additionally getting to do things such as onboarding materials, supply chain work, and those were like short term projects, right? Moving along project milestone, right? And as that project progressed, like our ultimate test of confidence that the FDA would need to see before they give us like the stamp to say you're good to make medicine here on a routine basis was
Mhm.
passing our PPQ series, which is process performance qualification. So day to day was all working towards that eventual goal, right? We had to go through water runs, engineering runs, shakedown runs, practice runs, just to get to that point. And all this is we're talking about happening in a matter of 2 years. And over those 2 years, there were several iterations, and you can kind of read how that progressed, and it really culminated in our company partnering with J&J to work on providing vaccine in an unprecedented move. So all of that really is just being able doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done. It was different, so many different stages of that project. Once I moved to specialist engineering, right, my role changed into um, a different project, right, but now a cancer project, right. Cancer drug is what we're manufacturing. That one is that day to day sees me again practicing some of those same skills, but with more individual ownership of over a specific process or slice of the pie. So in that long range thinking about a schedule when we want to be ready. Again, still looking at that milestone of being ready for PPQ, so that way we can get the FDA stamp and really start bringing money to the facility. Because every day that passes where we're not licensed is a day we're not making medicine. It's a day we're losing money, right? And we're still a corporation, right?
Yeah.
Albeit with a very admirable goals, right?
Yeah.
As that as how we turn profit. So looking towards that, still thinking about what how to execute on technical protocols, how to ensure that suites are ready to roll, ensure that the training that needs to be done is done, And I think my day to day is kind of tracking the progress of those respective tasks and making sure um, I'm really in a place like the work is getting done, escalating issues, working with the different cross functional groups that I work with day to day, and even consulting above site groups that are, just basically the SMEs for the entire network, the entire, project, not project, excuse me, company, that can provide, key insight onto some of the plans that I'm looking to execute.
Okay, I like that. You mentioned earlier that a lot of people that we work, I guess your colleagues, they used to be chemical engineers. What are like the possibilities of not necessarily growth, but I guess where you can go as a process engineer? I know you get the three bands. You can go up to like the associate, where you're at currently, and the senior. What after you get to that third level as an individual contributor? Where can you go after that?
If you want to go straight up the chain, the next step that seems logical would be associate director, where
Okay.
you're a manager of engineers, right? You're managing an engineering team. So think pyramid, right? Individual contributors, then you have your managers, and then you have their managers, and then their managers would be the directors. So they direct all of the engineers under a project. And then, if you go even higher, now you're talking above site, you can become the roles vary, right? You can be a vice president or executive director and oversee a team of directors. It just depends. But going back to earlier, I said you need a degree to be a process engineer. Typically,
Mhm.
that is the case, right? But you don't have to just stay if you're a process engineer within the engineering department. We have three organizations: quality, operations, and then like the engineering group, right? Technical operations. Merck values, right? Experience and critical thinking over just degrees. You can pivot into operations or quality, right? If you demonstrate you're able to do the work and then also move up those chains within those same bands mentioned. Um, Similarly, you can come into this industry as a technician, right, with a high school degree. You don't need a college degree, but with years of experience working your way up, you can also similarly rise those ranks. Maybe not process engineering, but certainly like operations. For example, you can become an AD. And I'm not sure where the limit stops, but you can break those glass ceilings that you would think are otherwise reserved for 4-year degree holders.
Okay, I like that explanation because I was going to we're on like that's gonna be one of the last questions, but like, what can people do? Can people break into this industry without having a college degree? So I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, definitely going to touch on that more because there are definitely several key initiatives. Part of what just drew me to Merck that would let people get into this industry, particularly Merck.
Okay, I love it. Okay, well that ends the first half of the interview. I really appreciate it. We're gonna head to the not so speed round. It's gonna be obviously it's not so speed round, so it's gonna be like speed round questions, but it might not be too quick to answer.
Yeah,
Honestly, first question is: what are 4 words that describe a process engineer?
technical, strategic, detail oriented, critical thinker.
Mm. They're all kind of self-explanatory, but let's just dive deep on critical thinking.
Yeah, this isn't university anymore, right? Um, I can see how someone who had studied well in school may be in for a change because now you're not just studying for the right answer. I think that's what really attracted me to STEM. Right, there is a definite right answer, but here, there could be multiple right answers. There could be multiple ways to get to a solution, and it's on you to kind of figure out what is more practical, what can save resources, what can save time, energy, what can you know how do you make a decision right with a limited set of information. Part of that is experience, but also ultimately I think being able to critically think through whatever problem you're facing, come up with a solution and try it out, right, is key as a process engineer.
I love that, and I think that statement you made, it kind of applies to almost every role, every critical thinking role in the world, which I think is almost every role. Is like, how can you make an informed decision with limited amount of knowledge? That was a great quote by OD. I like that.
Appreciate it, man.
I like
Stamp. Yeah.
Yes, sir. What's a profession that you imagine process engineering is most like? But let's not use another engineering role. That'd be too easy.
Mm, I think event planner
Hmm.
is something that comes to mind, and that's because of a conversation I had with someone in passing and recently. Right, if you think of someone that, say, maybe the lead people behind someone like, I'll use a music festival for example. Say something like Dreamville. Um, if you appreciate the software, like of logistics of creating an app, then there's someone that is responsible for bringing all the people together, bringing the capital together, bringing the team together, and executing against the required timelines. And then there's probably someone responsible for coordinating the vendors, coordinating contracts, securing contracts, really putting that in place. People are thinking about the sound, audio, engineering. People are thinking about the layouts. There's someone that is responsible for how everything's supposed to operate and what time, and really making sure that all of it comes together to have this one final project, which is a music festival experience that you want your fans to leave safely, leave on a high note, and leave wanting more. Right? There's someone that is figuring out all the problems, getting them highlighted, working to put resources towards breaking them down, looking at opportunities to excel, looking at where they need to make changes, be adaptable, be flexible, um, having to say no, having to say yes. And I think event planning on that scale, right, to make sure taking that vision and bringing it to life. That is one similar role I would think is applicable.
That was a great example. I was kind of following when you first said it, but then when you elaborate on it, it made perfect sense. And it's like, honestly, shout out to event planners, because I know from my current company, they plan like C-level events, and like it's very, like you said, meticulous on like how they like have to organize all this stuff. But then it has to go according, and if it doesn't, I remember like we had like a sales kick up at my last company, and it was in Vegas, but that's when that hurricane came and hit California, so they had to like change everything to get 4,000 people to Vegas while there was a hurricane supposed to hit, and they made it happen. And
Wow.
it's all like the event planning team. So like you're right, I like it. Okay, that was a great example again. Okay, what does a world look like without process engineering?
Um, I think it's a world without, I want to pause the process. A realistic example.
Yeah.
I think you can compare it to a world without, say, maybe two lanes of thought. A world without automation, where you're constantly trying to do something you know how to do, your next peer knows how to do, a whole group of people may know how to do, but everyone does it so differently that the efficiency is lost, that the time you spent trying to redo it is lost, and no one's operating from the same common understanding. And whereas it could have taken you, 2 weeks to like put out, say a driving vehicle. Now you have it takes you 2 months to do that same thing, even if you have all the equipment. Now you have to, maybe it might take you another 3 months to do the next one, because no one just, it's just incoherent in that aspect. It could also look like a world with, say, a world where you just have the ability to build houses without having to be a licensed contractor, right? You get shoddy work. You can have band-aid solutions. You just get a product that you just don't know. Like a world where we used to be in a world where you didn't have to have FDA. Right, the FDA didn't exist. Right, people could put whatever and slap it on a label and just get it out there. I think it just gives that level of degree of control and assurance that just like the highways you drive on, the cars you turn on and ride every day, like you can get in there with a safe degree of assurance, relatively, good degree of assurance that these people put in the work to make sure that the product you're using is safe, reliable. I keep going back to safe and reliable because that's what it's about, and most importantly, convenient for you.
That's a good example. It's funny. I've never even said this out loud before, but like every time I get into my car, I'm like, yo, what if this car blows up? But like I don't know why, but I just something in my head. I don't know. But that's just a fear I have. Nothing to do with my car, but it's like because of what your colleagues do in the process engineering field, I don't have to have that fear to a relative degree because some cars do explode, but it's probably because like anomaly. It's not due to like anything that
Yeah,
jump. But
certainly.
I like it. I love it. Okay. What's the good? Give me the good, the bad, and ugly about process engineering.
I think the good is that you get to, especially in my company, you get to really be a part of work that can outlast you, right? If you this current project I'm working on is we're transferring a capabilities to manufacture medicine to a new state of the art facility, and this process is decades old. The work that I get to do now would be in place. The studies that I execute now will be documented on paper for a while. So the thought that I get to do something that eventually will go into patients, the work I do will eventually go into patients, help them save lives, improve their quality of lives, give them more time with family members is gratifying, right? It definitely is rewarding in a sense. And even though it's not something I carry with me every day, if I'm ever, just feeling down and out or something, I can just remember, the why behind it. It always gives me some degree of appreciation to be able to do something right. And the mentor was saying, right, I could be a loan shark. There are people that are loan sharks for livings, right? The work
Yeah.
I do ultimately has a plus value on the world. The pay is good. I can't complain about the pay, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the newest fad is to look at anything software engineering related or software dev related, and I'm guilty of the same. And think, wow, like that's where it's at. But I think as I continue to put the time in, that equity in, I see more returns. So if you are someone that is salary motivated, which there's no knock on, right? This is how you that's what lets you live life. That is a nice plus. I can't speak for all process engineers, but with Merck, then the added benefits on top, right?
Yeah.
Vacation, health insurance, financial packages also make it so that I don't have to worry too much about how my compensation is, right? I think a third point for what's good, I think opportunity to do new projects definitely helps towards developing competencies. So I appreciate that. As far as the bad, I think if something goes wrong, it can be tied to you. Right? There are people that unfortunately die due to engineering accidents, and if there's something that happens, it's not a one-off incident. It's probably tied to a significant number of other. The impact is since it's a scalable process. If you're an engineer, you're not doing one-offs. You're doing something that is meant to continually outputting things. So if you mess up somewhere, it could either it could have serious effects, right? So that diligence is definitely key. I think imposter syndrome is something bad that I think a lot of people deal with, but more minorities are more so susceptible to it. I think that is a thing, and I think that ties into like the ugly, right? I'm a black man, and as black people, right, there are very few. I think people in engineering as a whole, and I think that just there's 1,001 reasons why those circumstances came to be, but it can make things challenging in that aspect, right? And I think what attracted me to Merck was top-down leadership focus on creating diverse, culturally responsible, and very where making that ingrained in the culture was felt, but ultimately it comes down to the grassroots, right? That's where you at, where you're at. I think sometimes it's hard to you know part of why I left UNC Charlotte was because I got this sense that I'm bold the way I'm bold. I've calmed down a little bit, but I metaphorically wear my heart. I am who I am, right? And for
Yeah.
people that have never interacted with people of different cultures, should I
Yeah.
agree? I think dealing with microaggressions or things of that nature is ever present, and not to say that it's intentional or anything like that, but I think it's just a matter of engineers tend to group together with people that remind them of themselves. So if you don't, seem like a typical engineer, it could be a bit harder for you to, feel a part of that in group in that space. So that I've had my own unique challenges. I'm sure that other minorities may agree, right? I can't speak for them, but for me, I think that's something that you know is probably unique, not to just my industry, but just to anyone that's a minority in corporate America.
Yeah.
Frankly, right? That's one of those other hurdles that we have to overcome, right? But I'd say those are the good and bad and uglies of being a process engineer.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Hey, stuff we gotta hear because it's true.
Certainly.
um, you kind of touched on it a little bit on in your last response, but are you underpaid or overpaid?
I don't know. Um, I know Merck compensates fairly within the company. So in that respect, I might say I'm underpaid. Only because I think even if I'm in the same band as someone else that's again in those other organizations I mentioned, like you know, maybe being an engineer should add a little bit more. But that's just a little bit of hubris. I think I know the company is consistent with
Yeah.
the pay grades. So someone, man or woman, like it's race agnostic, gender agnostic. So that I appreciate. Compared to other companies, I don't know. I do know that it's it is what it is. I stand to make a lot more by leaving
Mm,
um, to take that pay jump. That I know that is how it is, but so maybe in that respect, compared to someone who might have worked 2 years and then switch companies, I may be making less, but I don't think I don't feel underpaid.
okay, nice. That's good. That's a good answer. I like that. I like that. Okay, we got two more questions left. What's one person, book, or event that changed the trajectory of your life for a net positive, and why?
So many people have had their hand in really helping me, um, but I want to really give this as a tribute to one of my late mentors, Dr. Diane Johnson, who was a teacher when I was at Hillside High School, and again, like one of those before I really knew what the concept of true mentorship was. She was someone that was just always mentor and advocate for pushing for me to just embrace my thirst for learning. I think she was just real critical and just letting me know there are substantial opportunities for me to push my educational limits. I think just through just her being in my life, I think that helped me for the better and really you know put in my mind that it was something worth doing, something admirable worth doing, and really help nurse that fire in me to get where I am. So I really think she's definitely one of my key influences, especially at a time where coming out of Durham, like I think the most risky years of my life were being a teenager, just because unfortunately just the city dynamics lend itself to that. So she was definitely someone that really helped a lot in that respect.
Shout out. Okay, I love it. I love it. Okay. Last question, maybe the most important of the whole interview. How would let's say a young OD, maybe like a twin from like a parallel universe, he wants to get started in let's say he's a twin too, and let's say one of OD has a degree and he wants to get started in process engineering and his twin doesn't. How do they both get to where you are if it's possible? I know you said you might not be able to become one without a degree,
Yeah,
but if you can.
certainly. So there are ways to get into the industry. Certainly, I think Merck in particular, and really a shout out to the former CEO of Merck, Ken Frazier, Harvard trained lawyer, who took over the company as CEO after like leading them through like a serious litigation. Um, who also is a black man. So at that time, he was one of four black CEOs in Fortune 500 companies in America. I think He's a part of a coalition called the 110 Initiative. We're recognizing these disparities among Black, Latino, or Latinx households of um, just not having the same opportunities, same equity, and looking to equalize the playing field. Um, Really, the mission of that company is in 10 years, place 1 million Black or Latinx families. Give place in 10 years, place 1 million uh, people of these origins in jobs where you don't require technical degrees, right? You don't need college degrees to still do the same technical work or work, right? Removing those glass ceilings. I'd say to the parallel university, right? Demonstrate your prowess. You can get certificates that are actually no fluff certificates, no boot camps. Go to your local community college. They're degrees or certificates geared at exposing you to like the lab that let you make you become hireable, entry level hiring to get into the company. If you can get in the company there, you know the world is yours. There are unique things about Merck. You have opportunities to apply for like short term assignments, whether remote or on site, called gigs. Sign up for gigs, right? Get your create your brand once you get in there, right? And through that, right, the path will be certainly different, but you can come in with, fortunately, no college debt. You can begin working, making a very, very appreciable salary without having a degree. And really, by being there, especially a project like this from the beginning, you get to be tied to a product like that, and the experience is what will pay you, right? The experience you gain is what will be the the fruit of your future fruit, right? By being able to talk to what you've done and having that innate understanding. My industry is such a niche industry that goes a long way beyond say um, going back to school necessarily. And then when you're there, Merck does offer tuition reimbursement. Take advantage of the tuition reimbursement. Look to see whether you can finally get the 4 year degree, or if you can add on additional certificates. But really take advantage of the money that Merck is setting aside. Right. That would be my advice to twin me in an alternate universe to get started.
Facts. I love it. Man, we appreciate you, OD, man. If you want, you can give out your social media, like your Insta or LinkedIn if you want to. If not, it's cool. But say like a last few words to like, let's say if a high schooler, maybe even a college, or maybe even a man in his 40s, woman in her 50s. Give some advice to the people that are really impressed. I mean, you're a young man by what you've accomplished and what you will accomplish. Give some advice to these people.
Yeah, no, I certainly appreciate you extending the invitation. Very much glad to have been able to speak. I think the advice I would give is not so simple to say do it, but I want to start with do it. You can do it, right? There are hurdles and challenges, um, but if the only reason that was ever stopping you was someone telling you you couldn't do it, throw that out the window, right? Do it till you know that you can't do it. Try it till you it's just not your niche. But don't ever like convince yourself to quit or let someone convince you to quit. I think secondly, if you're looking for ways to get started, you know, habits. Your habits shape you. One key read I think is very valuable is Atomic Habits, right? Create the environment that's conducive to you being able to make those daily improvements where you can. And I recognize that people are in different walks of life. They may have different obligations and commitments, and that's understandable. But build your habits. Look for learning. There's free learning. A software developer, you can be entirely self-taught, truly be self-taught. To an appreciable degree on your own. If you have computer and the internet connection, you can really embark on a journey of learning in a sense, in a way that just past generations did not have. So if you have computer, internet connection, good habits, build good discipline. Really the world becomes your oyster. But to open that oyster, you certainly want to connect, network with people, let them know who you are. Just as important as it is work hard, it's important to network hard. The hard work is a given, but no one can see the diamond unless there's a light shining on it, right? You won't. You have to become the diamond in the rough, and then you have to mine yourself out and really show that to people to let them know what they're missing out on. And if you can do those things, you'll be able to get into a place where your name is in rooms that you're not in, where you're being tapped into, and hopefully begin to kick off that cycle of stepping up the next stairs, and keep extending or ascending in whatever it is you want to do.
Man, that just culminates a wonderful interview. Man, you said so many jewels right there, but I'm gonna highlight one. Have your name in rooms where you're not there. That's what people really underestimate. But like when you have people vouching for you and advocating for you on your behalf and you're not present, that's where like the real battles are won. In like battles, like as in like just like your career journey. And it can be personal too. But man, I love it, man. I appreciate you, OD. Man, great interview. Everyone that stayed tuned, man, please comment, like, and subscribe. Y'all have a nice, blessed evening.
Pleasure.